Yeah, there we go.
Hi there, BJ.
Good morning. Good
So we're
Monday
here a
morning.
little bit behind schedule because we were trying to get things sorted out in the background. So if you're with us, great. And if you're not with us, you'll be watching us or on delay or on replay, or you'll be listening to a podcast, which I will get out. I'm going to try to do kind of a 12 days of Christmas thing and get the back catalog out on the podcast because our
There you go.
podcast vendor decided to get out of the podcast business. So that's taken a little bit of work. So anyway, what's going on in lovely Wisconsin? I know you guys were you
Yeah.
down to zero yet? Because it was 9 in Chicago last week, so I figure you were pretty
No,
cool.
no, we've seen the first couple snowflakes have been hitting, but nothing's on the ground, so we're fine weather-wise. I think our technical difficulties in the beginning fit us perfectly, fit our theme. We have experts on that are not and we're talking about things that they're not experts in. So I think that suits us. You
Yep.
know, that's good.
Well, quick
Um,
introduction. Set them up. Let's get them in here.
yeah. So today, Toby Manzanares from Rio Rancho High School in Albuquerque, New Mexico, who I've been lucky enough to work for. Uh, I went and worked a clinic, their state coaches clinic, a few years ago, and that's how we got to know each other. And just had a blast there. And we've kept in touch since. We catch up at the ABCA every year, and that's probably a good topic of conversation for us
Mm.
at some point in this uh, uh, in this session. Although I found his high school situation to be so interesting, intriguing. That was the thing that I wanted to most talk about. But I think maybe we can talk a little bit of ABCA first because that's obviously that's the pressing item for this week,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Well, let's get
Coming
them in
up. Bring him
here.
in. There he is.
Hey, well, good morning, Steve, BJ. How are you?
Good,
Doing
very
well.
good. The 500 club you're in. Do you get to
Yeah,
get your certificate at ABCA this year for 500 wins?
yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, so thanks for that. It's the award ceremony. I think Friday morning. A plaque. Get to strut on stage, if you will, and spend a couple seconds waving at fellow coaches. But yeah, quite an honor for my volleyball program and for our former players and coaching staffs along the way. Quite an accomplishment. Pretty excited about it. Uh, Longevity and a lot of success along the way, which is a tribute to them.
Tell us. Let's bypass ABCA for a little bit. We can get into that, but I just when I visited Rio Rancho, it was really just an intriguing high school. Tell us a little bit about that school first and what they're doing there, and then maybe we can get into the volleyball program a little bit.
Sure. Well, we opened in 1997. I'm the only head volleyball coach in our history, in our existence, and we just celebrated our 25th official year last year, and completed year 26 this year. Um, it was it was built in cooperation with the Intel Corporation. As a matter of fact, they sponsored some money to build this. It was built at $33 million, and it's actually built like a small college. We do have an academy type of philosophy, or started with an academy type of philosophy, where kids could choose their path of academics, be it cymatics, science, fine arts, entrepreneurship, technology. So it's pretty cool in that respect. Our gymnasium is separate from the campus, if you will, and our gymnasium seats about close to 3,000. So there's quite a vision when this was being built. Um, Gary Veem, our original slash architect of Rio Rancho athletics, was hired to get a coaching staff in place, and he tried to find the best people he could, and I'm not sure he made the best decision in hiring me, but I got lucky enough to have some success with some kids and a long standing um, uh, staff in place. And uh, I know that when I first got the job, I walked into his office with our head basketball coach, and Bobby McIntyre asked Mr. Veem, "Hey, you were in Iowa City building a new high school there and had some great success. You're coming here. What's the secret sauce?" And basically he said this. He says, "I'm hiring the best people I can find, and my job is to get you everything that you need to be successful. So you give me a list of things that you need, and I will get that stuff to you. And then it's your job to be successful." Um, the I think the crux of this whole thing was if you're not successful, one of two things has happened. One, you don't have the capacity to make it happen and to be successful in our athletic program, or two, I've hired the wrong person. And talk about a lot of pressure being put on a young, aspiring head volleyball coach at that point in time. And we've just tried to work diligently to be a student of the game, not only as a coaching staff but also as a volleyball program. To make things happen over the past 26 years.
Yeah, it was just walking around the school. It does have a college campus feel to it. When you gave us the tour, the there are about 5,000 students. Am I correct in that?
We are at about 3,750
Okay.
students.
Okay.
Our sister high school opened about 11 years ago, and they've got about 3,750 kids as well. So, between the two, we've got a lot of students. Um, we're busting at the seams still. I think we're going to need another high school here within the next 5 years or so. But yeah, at one point in time when we had grades 9 through 12 on campus, once upon a time we were at about 4,200.
Wow. Yeah, that's big. The high school that I'm at now, is about 1,500, and I think they're certainly in the top 20 largest in Wisconsin, if not, uh, close to the top 10. So that would be an extremely large high school in Wisconsin. I think the biggest one, it is actually, it's kind of a weird situation. We have a school that's an east and a west that are merged in the same building. So your biggest rival is in the same building as you, which would be really, really strange. But yeah, schools of 3,700. That's a really that's a big number uh, for what I'm used
Yeah, it
to.
really
But
is. I
I
think,
don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have 5 classifications here in New Mexico. Class 5A being the biggest. We've got about each classification is roughly 25 to 30 high schools. Um, I think the determination again in enrollment is about 1,200 plus, sending you to the 5A level, and then it goes down from there. But yeah, ourselves, Cleveland High School, Albuquerque Public Schools, which is down the hill from us, range. Uh, 3,000 to about, I don't know, 1,500. And then we have our southern schools, Las Cruces Public Schools, Hobbs Public Schools, and those in the southeast of New Mexico, rounding out the 5A level.
So with the five classifications, you must in that smallest classification, there must be some schools that have 100 kids in them, 200 kids, right? Is it get that
Oh,
small?
absolutely. They may go 150 K through 12, and they may only have 75 in their high school 9 through 12. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty small.
Yep.
did, did you ever think you wanted to coach at a school like that? Could you do it?
I think I could. I mean, my assistant coach is always kind of elbowing me and saying, "Hey, let's go coach at a small school." Um, those kids, they play every sport. So volleyball is volleyball is volleyball, as they say, and I think they don't know what they don't know, and our job, or my job and my philosophy is kind of one of the old guards or elder statesmen, if you will, in our state, is to try to bring um, coaches education to all of our coaches, regardless of class. Um, Hence, why I was really fortunate to have you come to our state coaches clinic and share your knowledge of the game, BJ, with those coaches in attendance. We've always said and continue to say, try to find one nugget that you can learn and take back to your gym, modify it to your volleyball program and to your way of teaching, communicating to your students and players, and make it work. So yeah, we've come a long ways actually in our sport, in our state, and continue to drive upward, to put a better product on the floor each and every year.
Yeah, it
It
was
was really.
interesting. Oh, sorry, but I was looking at.
No, you go.
I looked at it at one of the. I just did the quick Google search where I got the spelling correct, since I got your my first post on your name had a lot of O's and no A's, and uh, so we fixed that. And what I noticed, and what I'm going to take away before we even got started was, I work at a school. We're about 1,500 students, 4A here in Arizona, and it's not a very popular sport. We've been building it, and I know you made a great point in this interview that with the newspaper there, which was 2% better. I really like that comment that you just have to get a little bit better and just keep consistently getting better, and that's something that I know. My boys are at the stick. Some of my boys right now are frustrated because some of them finally went out and played some club ball, and now they're coming back and they're getting frustrated with their colleagues. And I'm like, guys, you can't be that. And the colleagues are like, well, they're coming in and trying to teach us stuff. I'm like, well, they've learned some stuff, and so they are
Right.
trying to help, but they aren't the coach. And you gotta, so right now it's we've got some bonding challenges which I hadn't had before. So to get 2% better each time we work on things, we need to go back and now work on okay, we're not all in the same boat now. Some of us have been fortunate enough to learn some things, and that doesn't make us better people. It just makes us more skilled. That's okay.
Absolutely. I think now that I'm releasing our kids to club, and club in our state is really skyrocketed as well, and it's exploded over the last 15 years for sure. That's kind of the only time we allow these kids to kind of be selfish. They're trying to better themselves and individually, and trying to be a better version of themselves, being a part of our high school team. um, I think it's a necessary evil, if you will. We need the club system. We need them to get some additional reps in preparation for bringing together a competitive product again, and a team to compete in the fall. But I think they're really glad to see one another, and they're really glad to get back on the same floor when they come back to us in the summer. And yes, I mean, when we put different pieces back together to form the puzzle that we kind of envision, because they've had this opportunity during the off season. I think it makes for a pretty good a puzzle on the table because we're bringing some different tools. So yeah, 2% better is what we ask of these kids each and every day. We have anywhere between 40 and 46 or 47 practices that we feel that we can improve. And if we get 2% better, then at the end of this season, at the end of the year, we're a lot of percent better. If we ask them to get 100% better today and tomorrow, and then we feel there's no room for improvement, after that. So if we can get 80, 85, 90% better from day one to day 46 or 47, then I think we have a chance to make a run at a state championship. Ultimately, that's our goal at the end of the day. But there's a lot of work that goes into that as well. We're really trying to define what our culture is and what our leadership looks like, and we're kind of finding now that it's got to be by design rather than by default, because I think just like you said earlier, Steve, kids are coming back from their club experience, off-season experiences, and have a little bit more voice, and we're trying to navigate that voice so that it's really conducive to the group that we have on the floor.
Yeah, every year, right? The culture drifts just a little bit every year, and it seems like as coaches we're always just kind of steering it just a little bit. They ultimately the players make the culture, right? So we have to kind of steer those steer those
Yeah.
players into you know,
Yeah, for sure. I think sometimes we give our kids the benefit of the doubt, and sometimes we are more of a manager some seasons than others, instead of the quote unquote coach. I think the X's and O's are the easy part of it right now. Coaching volleyball is coaching volleyball. But steering, like you said, BJ, and navigating, the culture piece now has to be a little bit more by design, I believe. And I think that takes a little extra time and takes a little bit of extra effort. But it's effort and time that I think is well spent.
So we talked a lot when I was down there. We talked a lot about you guys have some weekend programming for youth, for your middle schools, and I'm not even sure how. I can't remember how young you were going, if it was down to sixth grade or fifth grade, but you had a ton of young kids in your gyms on Saturdays and Sundays coming in for tournaments and things. Just I was fascinated by that, and it's a model that I want to use. So selfishly, I'm asking, what are you doing? How are you getting that to work? Getting those younger players in your high school gyms?
Well, once upon a time, when we opened Rio Rancho High School, I was able to get to our middle schools all the time. So they knew who Coach Mons was. As I walked down the hallways, and they'd run up and high five, hug, high five, hug, and since we were the only show in town, if you will, before our sister high school opened up a few years ago, we were able to get to all four middle schools. Right now, we have 2.5 middle schools that feed into us, 2.5 middle schools that feed into our sister high school, and our time constraints are a little bit more pressing now, just because they practice at the same time that we do. They play on the same days that we do as well. So it's gotten tougher and tougher to get there. So what we've done is in cooperation with our sister high school, Cleveland High School, is we've developed a program which we call Rio Rancho Metro League. It caters to sixth grade 6, excuse me. And this is kind of how we have it going on right now. I have a second program that I run out of Rio Rancho High School, and it is called Rio Rancho Spring Series, and it is catered to club programs around the Albuquerque metro area, Santa Fe, uh, up to 3 hours in distance from Albuquerque and or Rio Rancho. I'll explain that one as well. So our sixth grade Metro League, uh, we have about 130 sixth grade volleyballers that frequent our gym every week for about 7 weeks. We could extend it a little bit more, but we have to get it done by October 1st, if you will, just because that's when our conference season starts, our district season. So, we kind of got to turn our attention to trying to win our district, and as a result, we have to make sure that we get everything in at that time and by that time so we can move forward. So we have a practice at each one of our facilities, say on Monday. So Monday, those kids that are going to be attending Rio Rancho High School come to me. Those kids that are going to Cleveland High School go to Cleveland, and we have a practice. And that practice is going to be about 90 minutes in length. It could be 2 hours in length if those sixth graders had any type of control. We get them in, and it is basic skill set, right? It's pass, it's serve, it's attacking, it's individual defense, and we try to pick two skills each week to build upon. Um, they have a second practice at their respective middle schools for about 90 minutes. And then one day a week, we have some type of competition day. So either we bring them in for 2 hours, 2 hours, 30 minutes. One time it's going to be at Rio Rancho High School. One time it's going to be at Cleveland High School. And we got to a point where we had them divided into 12 teams. So 12 teams of sixth graders coming in, either 3-team pools, 4-team pools, and we change up the type of games that we run. Maybe it's a 3-ball game. Maybe it's a team A serving. Regardless what happens, we put in a free ball. They play it out. The other team gets a free ball. They play it out. Winner, 2 out of the 3 points gets 1 bid point. Now, parents start to go crazy when scoring is changed. So we have to really be cognizant of how we explain this, when we explain this, and how many times we explain this, right? Parents just look at the big picture. These kids are getting lots and lots and lots of reps in 2.5 hours, and maybe day one of competition is 3-ball, maybe day 2 of competition is 3-ball, and then we start going into small games. We like to run everything by time. So maybe it's 25 minutes of running clock, starting session 3 to our very last session. And now it's serving and then putting a single ball in. So, when we vary the types of games that these sixth graders get, we're trying to build at the end. So week 5, 6, 7, where we are now trying to get 3 contacts out of a serve, pass, attack, and trying to count the number of multiple contacts, 3 contact that a team might have in a rally. We sometimes we have certificates from our local Dairy Queen. And we may say, all right, the team that has the most 3 contacts in the course of a night, that team gets a Sunday coupon. Well, now they're really focused on being able to pass over, pass set over. Bribery is always great, but these are kids that are really coming in with no skill sets whatsoever. But at the end of the program, we've seen a lot of improvement.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's I loved that whole idea of bringing every kid in that wants to come and play, and you guys had so many kids, and your weekends are full. I know it's a busy time for you guys, but it's just such a successful um, participation story, and also not just participation, but you guys are getting so much better. So you're kind of burning the candle on both ends. You're getting the participation for kids that never get to play sports, and you're also building on the upper end, if you want to call it that. You're building those skilled players are getting the chance to really learn some things. So I just thought it's one of the better middle school programs I've heard of. So it's good that we could hear some more.
Yeah, and and our overhead is absolutely nothing. Our C team, JV, and our varsity team members, they help run this program. So either they enter balls, or as we get into weeks 5, 6, and 7, where we're actually playing, they then become the officials. Because in our country we have a lack of officials, and we're trying to get some more officials on board. So with these kids having to officiate during their club seasons anyway, and then being able to officiate during our 6th grade Metro League, I think it's a win-win. If they can leave us and have the tools to become a young official and replace those that might be retiring, or those that might be driven out of the sport because of a fan base that might not be very kind, and we hear those stories all the time. I think we're doing a great service for the Officials Association in our state, and maybe for other states, depending on where these kids are going to school and continuing their education. So, I like that piece. The second piece in the spring is what we call a Rio Rancho Spring Series. I'm very fortunate to have an administration that's really supportive. I have five courts in my gym, in my facility. I've got 3 in the main, and I've got 2 in our auxiliary gym. When we first started our spring series, I think we had 6 teams. Now we cater up to 60 teams, and I just think because court space is at a premium, and it's hard to get to, and it's hard to get. Period. We've had a really good idea that started really small in the early years, become just really big, and kind of copied, if you will, which gives these kids even more of an opportunity to play. We started to cater age 12 to 18, and we just found that after age 15, they're on traveling teams, and they're spending enough time and enough money, and traveling from here and there to get some big experiences playing. So we've kind of scaled it back to 14 and below, but we still have a lot of teams and a lot of opportunities for these kids. So how that works is we charge a nominal fee. Say we charge $100 a team to come in and play a 4-hour session. I think our program is well liked by parents, because they're done in half a day. I think coaches feel that they can get 4 hours out of their kids in about no more, and I think our kids tend to play hard and have enough energy and motivation and adrenaline over 4 hours to do the things they need to do, and then they're done, and they don't have to wait 3 hours for round 1 of an elimination tournament. And so we have 2 sessions. We have an 8:30 to 12:30 session, and that generally is 12 and under, 10 and under, and 8 and under. And talk about grassroots. I mean, now we're getting to to the babies, and that's going for 4.5 hours. And then the second group is age 13 and 14 from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And this happens twice a month on Sundays, like you said earlier, BJ. And that is all time. So we start on time. We put 35 minutes on the clock. The buzzer starts it, the buzzer ends it, and then you have a 5-minute warm-up period for the other teams that will be playing. Now, once again, our overhead is very little, because these teams uh, officiate themselves, or coaches officiate because they're having to do that in club anyway. We're able to charge a small admission fee. We have a great booster club that does a great job with our concessions. So everything that we need to raise during the course of the year is done through our spring series, and anything that we need to do during the summer, we can do because we've raised those funds.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, and that's going to lead me into our next discussion, which is you guys, you and I don't know if it's your whole staff, but I know you typically have a staff member or two go along with you to AVCA, and that's the pressing topic of the week because you're probably starting to look towards packing your bags to get out there. I'm not going to show up till Thursday. I was hoping to watch Wisconsin play some matches on Thursday and Saturday night, but I'll go for the matches and go and say hello to everyone. But what what is it for coaches maybe that have never been to AVCA? What's the value of going to that event? Older the older callous coaches like myself are like, oh yeah, maybe I'm gonna go, maybe I'm not. But what does somebody that's new get out of going to that style of a conference?
My first AVCA experience was 2001, San Diego. Again, I'm dating myself right now, but I've been to everyone since. The only one I didn't attend was Omaha, the COVID year, COVID season, and him and I had about making that trip, and I decided I was going to stay home. A bit overwhelming, to tell you the truth. My very first year, I was trying to navigate that schedule, and consequently over the years, it's just gotten better and better, and the opportunities to learn and the resources that you have at the AVCA convention are many. I think as a new coach, being able to navigate and being able to have your plan in place via the app, which is really good now. Didn't have the app way back then, but now you have the app that you can put on your phone, and it can steer you. It can navigate you through this convention. I think it's brain overload, to tell you the truth. There is so much to learn. There is so much to see, that sometimes you just have to take, 2 steps back, take a seat, and for 20 minutes, just breathe. I think what I have done over the years is I've kind of made a list of important things that my team needs coming into the next year. Maybe it's 3 things, maybe it's 4 things, and trying to identify where and when I can make myself available for those sessions. I will also say this, BJ and Steve, sometimes it's not about learning something new, but maybe it's sometimes it's maybe about being validated in the things that you're doing in your gym too. I think that's important as well, right? I was watching rotations and attack patterns out of those rotations online a couple days ago, and I saw some similarities, in the things that I'm doing in my gym versus the things that they were broadcasting and showing on that on that Zoom presentation as well. And I just thought, okay, these are some of the things that I feel are important. These are some of the things that I'm doing. And by the same token, I was being validated, but I was also, being reminded that there are other ways to do some things. And I learned a couple things as well. That's what's going to happen at the AVCA convention as well. For all coaches involved. What's really going to be cool for them is, we watch these coaches coach at a high level, but they're very approachable. And coaches can say, "Hey, I've got a question. Can you spend 5 minutes with you?" They are very accommodating, and 20 minutes later, you're still talking. And that was one of my hesitations and trepidation of this whole thing as a young coach as well. And that was, not knowing if I could approach somebody who I've watched from the sidelines for many, many years to ask a question that they might be able to answer for me. And the answer was, yeah, you got a few minutes, let's sit down and let's visit. So I do take an assistant coach. I go to one court. He goes to the other court, and they might be two totally separate topics. We're able to take notes, and then during a break we find a common meeting place, and we talk, and we kind of share with one another what we learned, and we try to take 3 nuggets away from the presentation or the topic, be it on a court live or being in a classroom, and then we try to take it down to just one big nugget that we feel we can share with our program.
Yeah, just to back you up on that approachability, the first time I went, I was walking down the hall, and I had been a fan of. It almost hurts to say, but I don't. I'd been a fan of Mark Rosen, who's at Michigan, arch rivals of Wisconsin, of course. But I just like his approach, and their Michigan volleyball wise is pretty solidly in the middle of a really strong conference. And Mark happened to be at the time was the chairperson of AVCA. I was just walking down the hall, and I reached my hand out and I said, "Hey, Mark, I just love the stuff you're doing. I've been giving this out to coaches. Thanks a lot." And I was ready to keep walking. And he's like, "Oh, what was it that you liked?" And that started. This was Thursday night, so it's the matches are coming up, and he and I chatted for like a half hour. I'm like, "Man, don't you have somewhere to go? I mean, you're the president of ABCA. You got to get going." And we just were having a great conversation and talking about, what their mission was at Michigan, and what his expectations were. He's very open about what the expectations were for him, being in the at the time, and maybe even arguably now the toughest conference in the country. And it was just so good about taking that time. I think, and just again to make your point about the Nuggets, the first time I went to ABCA was just a few years ago, and I found that many of the sessions that were the best for me were the kind of the non-volleyball sessions. I think of Jen Fry was talking about race, and how to deal with that in a team. And then Steve and I were talking before the podcast when I think I know you were there. As Ray and Sarah, Emily talked about abuses that coaches make, and they had personal stories about that. Dan Mickle doing his psychology, kind of 101. Those are the things that I really took away from, and I probably could have stayed away from the court. Uh, just hearing all those things. So I'd be interested to hear what you think about that type of presentation.
Yeah, well, I think more and more, like we talked about earlier, and trying to set, the best culture we possibly can for our team. Um, uh, I think those type of topics come into building that culture as well, and it's funny that you brought that up, because in my app and my schedule, I was starting to navigate that way as well. Looking at the topics on court and looking at the topics off court, and in a smaller setting where I can ask the honest question, based upon what I feel my team needs, I think is a great way to go. I mean, those are topics that we definitely need um, to talk about, and those are topics that we need to bring to our team because they have those questions as well. I just think they find it hard to ask them sometimes. So if we can find some common ground, and if we can lead the discussion with some open-ended questions, to build the culture the way we want it to be built, I think our team gets better in that respect. And once again, team chemistry and team trust, and a sense of being able to be honest and open with one another as a player leads to better communication, and I think it leads to our team becoming a better product night in and night out. So yeah, I definitely think those are topics that that every coach needs to be a part of and needs to seek out, because I think it's important to bring those type of things back to our team. Talking about AVCA, and talking about the amount of networking that you can do. My story is kind of similar. BJ, I'm walking to try to find uh, a topic, a classroom, and this guy is walking the opposite way, and I ask him, "Hey, do you know where this meeting room is?" And he looks at me and he goes, "You kind of look familiar." And I said, "Well, you look familiar." And I said, I know I've played you somewhere along the way, and Steve, you'll find this interesting. This individual is Todd Maddox. He's the head volleyball coach at the Bishop School in La Jolla, California, and my Rio Rancho team played his team at the Nike Tournament of Champion in Arizona several years ago, and actually his team gave my team a lesson of how to get beat soundly, and and reflect on how much better we have to get over the next few months, because it was a beat down. And we had a chuckle about it, and we got to reminisce about it as well. And to this day, Todd has been in my gym as well as a clinician, and it's been really fun. He asks some really, really thought-provoking questions. BJ, I liken him to you because your thought process is one that uh, gets us thinking in a whole nother plane. And that's what I appreciate about Todd Maddox, because he has the same thought process. How can you make your team better, and why do you think this is better than this? And at the end of the day, can your team benefit from X versus Y? The networking that's available at the AVCA is mind numbing, to tell you the truth. But by the same token, it's an opportunity to make a lot of friends and a lot of colleagues that can help you along your journey as a coach.
Yeah, I don't know that Maddox I'm not sure that I'm in his stratosphere, because he is incredibly successful. But that's high praise for me. That's a future guest for us. We've worked to get him on here a couple times, and because of that same thing, he asks um, important or big, or however you want to say it, thought-provoking questions. And he and I don't always agree necessarily on the things that we talk about, but he's been very welcoming. The first time that I presented at ABCA was because he asked me, will you be a panel member? Can we sit down and talk about this topic, whatever it was? And he's just been fantastic, really good guy, and a great example of just people you can meet there. You know, there's so many people in volleyball, and those are the people that we're working on getting on this podcast. guys like yourself that have had so much success that really know how to run a program. Guys like Brian Swente, who's, he's running the largest volleyball organization in the world. Uh, you know, um, and then just all the connections like that are they're just
And the other
amazing, and all those people at AVCA.
and the other side of that is we want this to be really accessible to coaches who are trying to figure things out, and I guess for me also, I've learned from every coach. Even brand new coaches, because they'll come in and they'll say, I don't, why do you do this? And you go, yeah, okay. Let me go back to that. Why do we do that? What is the real reason to
Yes.
do this? It's like I struggled for years because I started in an organization that was a good organization, but very drill based, and and for the life of me, I learned the game when people said, "Oh, you want to face where the ball's going to go," which no one teaches any longer for good reason. And right foot forward for the left side back to me for serve receive baffled me for years until I was at a cap clinic and Marwan Jafir finally gave me a reason. And then I started thinking about, okay, how do I explain that in a way that makes sense for players? And so that got things started. And then we had one of our early podcasts. We had a brand new high school coach who kind of got drafted into it, who was great. He was asking great questions. And when I worked with Mike Hewlett, here's a guy who's coached at the highest level. He's Cap 5, okay, and he asked questions all the time. He and I would get together, and I'd go, "Hey, how about this? What if I tried this? Well, go ahead and try it. Let's see what happens." I came up with a wacky idea of taking a bunch of safety glasses and obstructing the ability to see above the net, and put them on the guys and said, okay, play defense. And they're like, we can't block guys without being able to see the ball. I'm like, yeah, you can. And we did about 5 minutes of them. These 16s were all of a sudden blocking balls that they couldn't see. And it's like, oh, okay, now can we actually use that? Well, maybe. It's probably not the smartest thing in the world, but it was something to play with. And Mike would go, yeah, sure, why not? Whereas a lot of other coaches, club directors would go, you can't do that. What are you doing that for? So I think it's great to be able to learn from other people. And that's why we love doing this, because I come back to the gym. My kids have taught me a bunch in the last couple of weeks. They've been all of a sudden they want culture. They want to, bond. They're kind of, we need to do this kind of stuff, coach. I'm like, well, okay, let's do it. Because in years past, we haven't had, I'd say, let's do this, and two people would show up. I'm like, okay, let's go. So,
Right. Yeah.
it happens over time. You got to be patient, but it does happen.
No, I totally agree, and I think over the years, as I've gotten older and older, um, my why has continued to change and evolve. Why do I do this? Why do I do that? Uh, I think, BJ, one of the earliest questions you said is, what can a young coach, first year coach, um, you know, learn to do in their respective gym, even before they go into a large convention like the AVCA convention. Um, one of my suggestions would be to stop looking at the ball, right? I position myself all the time on the opposite side of the pole pad when we're in serve and serve receive. I never look at my servers anymore because I tend to track the ball. I don't need to, So my back is against a pole pad. I'm looking at serve receive, and I disregard the serving side, because now my focus is now on what my serve receive pattern looks like, what they're actually talking about pre-service, during ball flight, and then after serve receive contact. I think we're also trying to get our players to do that as well, right? Stop looking at the ball so much. And Steve, to your point, in the blocking context, is remove our eyes from the ball and focus on the attacker. So yeah, I mean, totally believe and know that you're blocking it at a higher percentage, because now you're concentrating on an approach pattern of an attacker, finding the contact arm, and being able to put a block in front of that point, versus drifting past because we're watching a ball in flight that can't change direction. So over the years now, the why of why I'm doing things, or how I'm doing things, now becomes more of my communication to my players. And I'll tell you, a great coach that does that without fail is Nabil Mardini. I mean, Nabil does a great job of speaking his why, and identifying to coaches that he talks to about establishing their why in everything that they're trying to do.
I would be surprised, Toby. I probably could walk into your gym and ask a question about any single thing that you were doing in there, and you would be able to say why we're doing this. No matter what it was, whether it was the type of offense, the setting approach, the uh, the way we're giving our drink breaks, you know, um, I bet every single one of those tiny little things, and some of it is unfair to new coaches because we've had the time to do this, right? We've had 25, 30 years to think about it. So we develop those whys. But I would bet that just about every single thing that I could ask, you would have a reason. This is why we're doing it.
Yeah, I think I mean, you just mentioned it. All of our experiences are behind us. As we've continued to coach and gain more and more experience as a head coach along the years. All the experiences of a young coach are in front of them. So they truly are by trial and error, trying to figure out what their best path is. Yeah, I think we've established in our gym, the things that we want to do, and the whys behind them. They're simplistic. We feel we want to keep it simple, yet we want to keep it efficient. I think we want to get 3 or 4 things established and get really good at them, instead of establishing 8 or 9 things and being average at each one of those things. So you'll see us train 3 or 4 things within a skill set, and try to be the best that we possibly can be. And yes,
Yeah.
Steve, we're getting 2% better every day within that skill set, circling back within the time frame that we do have. I think what we've continued to do as well, and be really efficient is putting a timer in our gym. And our timer allows us to get from one skill set to the next, from one drill to the next. I mean, things rarely go longer than 4 minutes. I think our kids' ability to stay focused in 1, 2, 3, or 4 minute goes allows us to be a little bit more proficient in the skill set that we're training in that particular period of time within our practice plan. And 2 hours just flies by when our focus is on trying to get a few percentage better at our skill set within that timer set, regardless of where it's at. But it goes really fast, and be it defensive individual training for a minute, 30 minutes per group, and then switching it out, or serving for 4 minutes, and then going into a serve receive drill for 3 minutes, or 4 minutes after that. I think really dials us in to be a little bit more proficient in our training.
Yeah, and I think
I think it's a mistake that young coaches make. Oh, go ahead, Steve. You go.
well, for me, it's like I've gone through, I've gone through, very blocked training early on because that's what my club required. So it's an hour and a half of our block training, and then you can have a half hour with your team kind of world. And I did a lot of the threes teams and that kind of thing. So you have a different set, you have a different requirement, and all of that. Then I kind of, work with Mike. Then I got very, uh, let's say, train ugly approach. But, I had a player come up a couple weeks ago and say, "Hey, coach, we need more drills." And then he demonstrated. I said, "Well, show me what you mean by a drill." And he got down on one knee and put his platform out and started saying, "Well, I should, we got to work on our underhand passing technique, doing this kind of thing." I'm like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Well, that that is a symptom telling me I've got to diagnose a problem that I have with what I'm doing." And I was a little defensive at first. I said that's not going to get you where you want to go. And I'm like, okay, but what would get you where you want to go? So now we've introduced, like to your point, I'm like, okay, we're going to do some basic underhand passing, partner passing, ugly stuff, very blocked, but we're going to do it for a minute. We're going to do it
Yep.
with this in mind. I show them. I got to. They're going to get so tired of this. I'm going to show them this 3-minute video of Karch demonstrating underhand passing till they're sick and tired of it. Because we're going to say, here's Karch. Here's how you do it. Now let's go do it. 10 foot. Now do 20 foot. Now we're going to do overhand 10 foot overhand, and then we do dig set set, and then we go. Okay, now we're going to play speedball. Do this while you're playing speedball. And, I didn't do it that way before. I just let him play speedball. Now, are we great at making ugly hits? Yes. But are we really getting a little bit better at, I won't say proper technique, but are we teaching them how to do it a little better? And I wasn't getting that done. And so it's like, okay, here's a way. And then some of the things you've said today have got me thinking, okay, there's some other things I can be doing to get us that 2% better each time we get together. So if you're not learning, if you're not questioning what you're doing, you're probably going to stagnate.
Yeah, I totally agree. We evaluate ourselves after this season. My assistant coach Ken and myself will visit. We'll talk about the things we did good, that we were consistent in training. We'll talk about the things where we were deficient. I think it's it's important for program training and for programming. Period. Gives us a map, if you will, heading into the off season. I do have a volleyball class. I do have an athletic class that I have both my junior varsity and my varsity kids in every single day. So I have them for at least 50 minutes a day. So we are already planning what our small group teams look like, and since we graduated a couple setters, and we've got a JV setter coming up, and a kid on our varsity that can also set. We've talked about how and why we're going to put these small groups together. So DS Libero on court 1, setters and middles, setters and rights and lefts on court 2. 2 times a week to try to figure out how we can make a connection with those individuals and how we can build community. I think every group on our volleyball team is a community. So we have a community of setters. We have a community of rights and lefts, pin hitters. We have a community of middles. We have a community of liberos and defensive specialists. So, the other couple of days a week, we then break those small communities down, and we get them communicating amongst one another about team leadership and what their goals are to kind of help navigate their team coming into this new year. Because even though you have the same players coming back from a successful team the year prior, there's still a dynamic shift, and be it because players are a year older, so they think they may deserve a little bit more playing time, or kids might feel that as a returning player, they're privy to have a little bit more input in certain areas, and once again it goes back to your team culture and kind of identifying how we're going to put this team together and how we're going to navigate moving forward. And I think that happens during the course of our off season as well.
Yeah, we've pressed way past our hour, Steve, so we should probably wrap this up just to respect everybody's time.
Well, yeah,
Do you have any
to be
final
fair,
thoughts?
we're actually right at an hour. We just took
Oh,
15
are
minutes
we
to get
really?
started.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
But to be fair, we are at the hour, and Toby, thanks for bearing with us getting started this morning, and to our listeners who came in at an hour later, because we usually go a little bit later. If you missed us, it's a great one to watch. Go back and watch the live stream, and I'm going to try to get the podcast stuff back up and running this week. So. Toby, great to meet you. You're by Southwestern standards, you're a stone's throw away. So hopefully we run into each other a little bit more as time goes on, and
Yeah,
we can
absolutely.
compare notes. I'm a little envious of what you've built, but you've built it over a lot of time with a lot of work. So I have my task in front of me. So that's always a fun thing to do.
Well, thank you very much. It was my pleasure to jump on with you today, Steve. It was great to meet you, BJ. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah,
I watched
same.
volleyball all day yesterday, and those matches were just outstanding. I really look forward to the semifinals next Thursday and the finals on Saturday. It's a great time of year for college volleyball and for volleyball enthusiasts as well. So. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I hope you and your families are awesome, and I wish you a great time with them.
Yeah, thanks, Toby. I can't wait to see you in a couple days. We'll see you down there.
All
All
right, we'll
right.
see you guys.